Welcome back. My name's Levi from the Isle Revelations. Some of you may know me as Paper Plane on Discord. And today we're going to go through some material setups, getting the buoyancy set up, getting the swimming set up. We'll do a little bit of fixes on some of the grass maps and everything that we have. And then when we get done with that, we'll probably go and start adding in a few rocks into the mountain areas, because there's a specific way I like to do that. And we'll probably actually create one of the rocks, because it doesn't really take all that long, and it'll give you an idea of how you can do that instead of buying your own assets, which, don't get me wrong, I buy a lot of assets as well, but sometimes I need something that I just need to make real quick, throw it on there just so it's not the same, because when you get the assets, you get a lot of the same stuff that a lot of other people are using as well, just to give a little diversity. So we're going to go ahead and open up. And on another note, the contest video will be launching today, a little bit after this one comes out. And that video will be its own, so that you can leave your comment and everything there for the rules for that, so you can get that copy of Oceanology. So we are giving 2 of those away. That will start today and run for about 2 weeks or so, possibly 3. We'll have that all set up and let you know a little bit later. And for right now, we're going to go ahead and just start on this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to knock out some of the grass maps situation that I have, because I'm not really happy with the grass here. I mean, it looks amazing, believe me, it does, but you can actually get it a lot better. And the problem that I have with it mostly is that whenever you go and you play, you'll notice that the grass is really nice, but it actually looks like a cut field, and it's not quite as clumpy in some places as I'd like. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that very quickly, and then we'll add a little bit more in as well. And the way we're going to do that, we'll go into Brushify, we'll go into Materials, Landscape, and in the grass types, we're going to go into the LG grass here to get all of our grass. So this is the grass setup for the grass texture. So anywhere that's painted, these are the grasses and flowers that will be spawned in that particular area. And the first thing we're going to do is we have our S-long grass here. This is the only grass that we have in this. There's a bunch of flowers and stuff as well. But we just want this one. We're going to just go ahead and duplicate it just to make it very quickly. And the first one down here, this is the original one that we had. We're going to bring this down actually to 110. So this is our grass density. This is how much density there will be in a certain area. I think it's like 10 by 10 meters or something of that nature. I can't remember exactly. And then we have the top one up here, which we're still at 140. We're actually going to bring this one down to 12. 10 or 12 is usually my normal numbers. And what we're going to look at is we have our sizes here. So you can see our scale Z, scale X, scale Y, and we have these ones 1 to 6, 45 to 65. We're going to change those for this one with the shorter amount, the shorter density. So we're going to bring this one up actually to the top number, which will be 0.6, and then we're going to bring this one up to 1.1, or pretty much we're just doubling the values we have here. And for the X and Y, we're just going to bring it to 0.65, which is what we have over here, and on this one we're going to go to 0.9, and then we can shift right click to copy that, shift left click to paste it there, and then go ahead and save and exit out. And now you'll see we get just a little bit more clumpiness in our grass. So if we actually play around, you'll see that there's some spots it's a little bit higher just randomly. And if you don't want it this much, so there is quite a bit here, all you have to do is just jump back into your grass and bring your density down to, like, say a 5 or so, and you'll see that you'll get it clumpier. You'll get it clumpy, but the clumps will be a little bit more spread out. For me personally, I do like the way the 12 looks, which when we do our dry grass here in a little bit, we'll actually add in a little bit more of that, and the dry grass will be a little bit more pronounced, but in smaller sections. So the next big one we have is I need to run through, obviously, I don't know if you noticed yet, if you looked in the background, you can see that the mountains are very different. And the reason is I already went ahead and changed all the textures on these, found the one that I wanted that was just a little bit more rocky to give it that nice rock look instead of that just flat gray. And the way you change those is the same for pretty much every texture you change or material that you're going to change in Brushify. And we're going to do the sand here right now so we can get this a little bit better looking since this is flat. And the way you do the rocks and this will be identical. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and leave so if we go into our landscape and we go into our paints, we have the beach setup here, which is this smooth sand. And we're going to leave that one because we actually do want some of that down here closer to the water, where the water has, you know, washed away the sand so that it gets a little bit smoother. But up here in the top, there's been animals, wind, all kinds of stuff. So there'll probably be a little bit more deviation or bumps and stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our dunes, since we're not going to use the dunes because we don't have a dune or deserty area. We're actually going to use that texture to add on to what we have here. So the way we're going to do that is the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into the Quixel bridge and we're going to decide, let's hope it's logged in this time. We're going to go ahead and decide what textures that we're going to want to use. So I have all my favorites here, and these are just generally the ones that I have found over the years of doing this that I like using for my rocks and for my dirt textures and also for my sand textures. So I already have mine set up, and then I just bring them down as a medium. So if you see there, I got a medium quality, and I'm bringing them medium in here because we're using a 2041 by 2041 texture, and the medium quality is going to export in as a 2048 by 2048, which is perfect. So now what we have to do, since I have those downloaded and I have them added into Megascans here, we can go back to our Brushify, go back into our materials, go back into landscape. This time we're going to actually go to the materials tab, and then we have all of these here, which will correspond to the paint layers we have here. So we have grass, these are going to be in the grass materials, desert, sand, dunes or desert beach dunes, those are going to be in the sand one. So we're just going to go into sand because we know we want our dunes one, so we have dunes. And if you notice these ones, we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So these ones all have one albedo and one normal, but on the dunes we actually have 3. So we have an albedo, we have a normal, and we have a POM. And the POM is for parallax occlusion mapping, so it'll fake tessellation. So previously in Unreal 5, 5.1, 5.0, they didn't have tessellation, which we do have now, so you would fake that with using the parallax occlusion. So we're not going to set that up because we're not actually going to use that. We're most likely going to get into using tessellation, probably. Don't know, haven't got decided on that yet. But what we're going to do right now, we're going to go ahead and open both of these. So we got our albedo and we have our normal map. And then we can go down into our Megascans. We'll go to surfaces. We'll bring up the ones that we want. So right now, currently we have these 3 and they are set as virtual textures. And unfortunately for this setup, the virtual textures won't work. We'll have to convert those back to a regular. So we're going to grab all 3 of these and we're going to go to convert to regular texture, and it did not select them. Let's convert to regular texture, and then we're going to put them back at 2048. Okay, that'll change them to just the regular texture. And then we can grab our normal map. We'll go ahead and grab all 3 of these. Click that one there and apply it. We'll go back to this one, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to grab the albedo on this one. We're going to grab all 3 of these, and we're going to apply those there. Apply like so. And then we can jump out like this. Now we can actually, and we probably will change the 3 that we applied there just so we get a more even beach. And I'll show you why here in a minute. So now we should have, if we go back into our landscape and we go back into our dunes, instead of having what we had originally, we should have a nice beach texture like this one. So if we go in closer, you'll see we have more breakup in the sand, which is perfect. But if we zoom out, you'll see that it just brings another version of that, a little bit bigger. This actually works pretty good. But one of the maps that you have there, so if we go back into our Brushify, we go back into materials and landscape and materials, we go back into sand, and we're going to do this dunes here. So this very last one here, I'm pretty sure this was the one for, let me verify just real quick. So I believe that this is the one for the more zoomed out map. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to Brushify. We'll go to the materials, landscape, and we're going to go into our textures. We'll do our sand textures or beach here, and we're going to use this beach one. And we're going to add that back into this one instead of what we had. Like so. And we're going to do the same thing with the landscape materials. We're going to go back to sand. We're going to do the dunes normals, and we're going to do that one as well. So if we go back into our materials, landscape textures, we go back to beach. We can grab the normal for this one, and we can add that one here. And I believe this was the right one. Let's verify. It might have been the top one. And let's let that compile shaders. So yes, I had that backwards. So I did the wrong one in the wrong place, which is not a problem to fix. All right, we have those there. Let's just go ahead and grab this one, and we'll put this on the top. And we'll do the same thing with this top normal here. We'll put this one on the top. And now all we have to do is just go back to get this one. So we'll just grab this one here, open it up, and then we can grab here and replace that. And this is good, so if you make a mistake or something, you can find out exactly where you get stuff. So you can grab this second one, since we know this is the right texture, open this up, gives us the right texture. We can go here, replace that one, and go ahead and apply. And now if we go back to it, it's going to compile our shaders. And then you'll see when we zoom out far enough, it turns back into this same. Just so if you go out far, you have a flying game or something, it just kind of brings those textures together so they don't look quite so different. But when we get close to it, you'll see we have our texture that we want to use. And that is perfect, and that's exactly what we want. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead into our landscape. We're going to grab our dunes, and we have our brush set up. We're going to start using the the texture painting system here. So you have two different types. Generally the one I use the most is the third one over, and I use these cloud textures. So if you go and you type in clouds, then you'll get a bunch of different kinds of clouds. The ones I use the most are this clouds diverse, this one that's small, and the clouds diverse, which is the large particle. Right now we're going to use the particle clouds large one, which was that one. And we'll bring this way down like this. And then if we paint it in, you'll see that it kind of breaks up a little bit instead of being just a real flat texture. So we can actually, up here, we can just tap on it and we can get rid of that seam that we had where it was just harsh and flat to the grass. And we can actually just increase that a little bit to get a little bit better spread there. That's a little too big. About like this, just to get rid of that line. And we'll quickly go through this line here and get that all taken care of. We can also inversely go back into our grass and do the same thing by adding a little bit of grass back in here and there. If you want like some areas to put some trees or something down here, you can just pop that in very quickly like so. And if we go down to it, you'll see that we get a nice breakup where the grass and the dirt mix together. Just adds a little bit of variation. So once again, we're going to go back through here and we're just going to paint back in the dunes here with a smaller brush. Let's go to tool strength is fine. We'll bring our brush size down a bit and we're just going to follow the water a little bit like so. We're actually going to go with a smoother brush here so we get a little bit more transition. We'll follow this water like so. And you don't have to fill all this in either. So if you have a little bit that's kind of that smooth and a little bit that's this more broken up sand texture, that even looks better. Just about like so. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let me go and Alt-Z that real quick. And just add this in like this. And then if we go back out here to the dirt or the grassy area and walk back in, you can see how we get a nice sand effect. And the further down we go, you'll see the sand start smoothing out to the water. Very, very cool. All right. So now we're going to take care of adding a little bit of deviation into the grass map itself. So there's actually several we're going to add in, but for right now we're going to talk just about adding one single one, which will be the dry grass, just to break up all of this green grass, because the green grass is nice, but it's nice if you have some deviation in there. So we're going to go into the landscape here, and we can just find it right here. We got grass dry, which is the one we're going to use. And we're going to bring our texture scale up just a little bit. You can bring your hardness up and bring your brush size up, and you can get a view a bit of where the texturing is. So you can see those dark spots. That's where the texture will happen. So the way I like to do it is I use this particular texture, which is the number 3 one. So it pretty much just adds a texture all the way over the entire map. And wherever you paint, you're just uncovering that. So you can see that those spots don't move. If we use this one, it actually tilts and turns, and it only uses the texture as a whole and rotates every time. Unfortunately, with this particular texture, it doesn't work that well because it's a square. So you see a square line. So if I were to hit it right there, you'll see that you get a very sharp, but this is not exactly the best one to use to show that. So if I use, say, beach, and I hit it right here, then you'll see you get a very square. So that's one of the reasons I really don't use that one much. I use this one the most. And we'll go ahead and just get the, and I'm sorry if you hear that, it's actually raining outside, so it's supposed to be a pretty nasty day today. So from here, we're going to go ahead and grab our dry grass, and then we're just going to back up. We're going to do a pretty good sized brush, and we're just going to go a little bit of fall off here, and we're just going to bounce these around here and just add them in here and there sporadically, and you'll see that we start getting, let's actually maybe make that a little bigger. You can see we can actually start adding in a little bit of deviation with this. Yeah, you can really hear the rain right now. So start adding these in a little bit, breaking them up a little, and you'll see when we get in, we'll get nice big open areas with a little bit of dry grass, which is what we're looking for. And we might actually bring those down just a little bit. We can shift and click here to bring some of it out. Whoops, that's not the way I wanted to go, but that actually looks really good, so we're going to leave it. We can shift click some of those out over there, a couple right here, maybe even go back to the grass real quick and just get some of the green back in there instead of quite so. I just like those to be really broken up so they're small little patchy areas, not everywhere on the map. Like large open areas, just little patches like this one. That's perfect. We'll go back to it real quick and we'll just add a few more here and there. So we're going to do this on the entire map, but we are going to use other ones besides just this. We'll use the forest for where we want to put forest and so on as well. So this is just to get this through. Now, one thing I do want to do to make these stand out a little bit more. So if we go right here, you can see them. And you can see where those browner grass patches are. But I want them to stand out even more. Since these are dead grass, they're usually a little bit taller sometimes, kind of wind beaten. So we're actually going to go back into the Brushify. We'll go back into the materials, into the landscape. And then we're going to go into the grass type. And this will be in the grass dry. We're going to open that up. And if we scroll down here, we have grass dry, this grass dry here. We're going to actually bring this one down to a value of 90. And we're going to do the same thing we did on the last one. We're going to, but this one we're not going to duplicate it. We're just going to keep all of these ones a little bit larger. So this one will be 0.6 to a 1.2. And then we'll do the same thing with the 4565. So this one will be 0.65. And this one will be 0.9. And we'll go ahead and copy that. And we'll paste that one here. And we'll OK it. And then hop back in. And now when we play, you will see that we'll have a little bit higher brown grass, and it just makes it stand out a bit. Really helps whenever you have the trees and everything in as well. See, this clump right here is a little bit too big. I usually make them much smaller than this, but I'll do that a little bit later on a time lapse whenever I actually start putting the rest of this map together. So for right now, let's go ahead and fix the issue with not being able to swim. So if we actually jump in right now, you'll notice that we do not swim at all. And we are using the Oceanology swim character, but we have no swimming happening. And why that is because we have to go ahead and add in the volume that tells the character where it can swim and where it cannot. So if we go back in, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to, we're actually going to do it up here on the ad. We're going to go to all classes. And if we type in ocean and we go over, we're going to see two of them here. We have the Oceanology water parent. We have the Oceanology water volume. And the Oceanology water volume is the one we're going to want. So we're going to drop that out, and you'll see it'll open to, you're going to get an Oceanology water volume, physics volume, and the water volume. We're going to drop that into the ocean, not the ocean floor, excuse me, the ocean here. And we're going to zero that out. And let's go ahead and give it a scale that's usable. I'm going to put in 250,000. Big scale. Control C, we'll put that one over here. Control V. Now you can see we have a giant box. It encompasses any area that we're going to want to be able to swim. And then we can go ahead here and make it 45,000 just to make sure it gets deep enough and does what we want it to do. So now we have this box set up, and we still won't be able to swim in it yet. So if we go into it, you're going to see that we're just going to swim pretty much everywhere. And that's just because we haven't told that box where the water is. So if we grab that volume again, you have a setting here that says Oceanology water. You can just grab the eyedropper and click on the water, and now that will assign where the water, where you're allowed to swim at. So now you can see that we are not swimming, but if we go out into the ocean, then you'll see we'll start swimming. So we do want to do one other thing. Now I don't leave my volumes this big. You can, but sometimes I have lakes and stuff that have different bodies of water that you're going to be swimming in at different elevations, but they are not included in this this selection here. So let's go back to the selection. So we don't have it included in this selection, so it won't work since this only works on the infinite. So what I would like to do is I'll go into my perspective mode. I'll go into the right. Let's go ahead and get rid of all of the distance field meshes so we can't see them. And we're going to zoom all the way in. Let's get our ocean wave water volume again. We're going to zoom all the way in. We're going to bring that way down. This is way too far up. We're going to find that edge, and we're going to line that edge up with our water edge here, our water line. So if you're in close like this and you can't grab your widget down there, all you have to do is Alt, hold, middle mouse click to move your widget where you want it, and then you can edit it. And we're going to bring it up just a little bit above our water line. So anything above this, there's no swimming on it. So if we have a lake, we know that the lake is most likely going to be a little bit higher than this ocean water line. So then we can add another volume there and then just put it right direct to that lake. So it won't affect this one. So now we can go ahead out, go back to our perspective. And once again, if we go back in, we're going to play from here. We can go ahead and swim around, and everything should be working. And we do have one problem. So I quit swimming right now, and we're still sliding forward swimming. That's a little bit of an issue that I want to take care of. If I can do the, if I go down, it does the same thing. It'll keep going down for a while. And if another one is, you can see that we're also we will drown at a certain time. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that really quick and set up the character so we have it the way I like to use it. This is personal preference here, just a quickie though, but I'll show you how to do it in case you want to. That way you can customize it the way you want for when you're testing out your game and your parts. So if we go into Oceanology 5, we can go into our character blueprints, and then we'll just open up the BP third person character. And currently we'll go into the event graph. Let me go into the viewport. So the first thing I like to do is I like to get my BP third person character right here and just hide it in game so you can't see it. So if you click on hide in game right here, then it won't render in the game. I'll go ahead and accept that. And then the next one I'm going to do is I have these cut out right here. I'm just going to drag this one across, and the only one I'm going to use is the input mapping, and I'm not going to use the register name or the example UI, which will not create the UI, and the registered user examples, which will not use those either. You can use this one if you want to use some of the items that it comes with, but that still doesn't take care of the death. So right now, if we were to play it, when we die, you'll just see it like detach from the water and it won't swim anymore. So the first thing we're going to have to do is go into the ocean swimming. And we have here is drowning, which will be ticked. This will give you your time if you want, and your death in seconds time that you can change if you want, or you can untick it and then we can't die at all. So now we can just go ahead and select that one, get all the way back on these, go here, and now we can swim around freely, and we can stay underneath the water for any length of time that we want, and we will not die. So we have one more thing we're going to fix really quick, and that's just right now I'm not swimming at all, and you see he's still swimming forward, and that just has to do with the water friction. So if we go into the Oceanology water volume and we go to the Oceanology water volume physics volume itself, we're going to change the fluid friction from 3 to 4 or 5. 4 will give you a little bit of movement forward, 5 will stop you much quicker. And now if we play, you'll see that when we stop swimming forward, the character will more quickly, he'll move a little bit forward and then more quickly go back into a prone state. Also works when you're going up and down so that it doesn't slide around quite so much. And you can see that we can stay underwater for as long as we want, and we won't die. So we can go and swim around all over when we put in whatever we want to put in the water and test it out, make sure it's all working without dying every 10 seconds. So that works for me. And we have the Brushify brushes back again. We'll go ahead and get rid of those really quick. All right, cool. So what do we have so far? So we took care of the grass, which is looking awesome. We took care of the rock texture, and I showed you how to do that with the sand texture, which is awesome. We got some swimming volumes, and we took care of the character. So now that we have that swimming volume in there, if you actually highlight it, you can see it says here, is it a buoyancy or a swimming area? So if you take off buoyancy, your boats won't work, but you can select which one you want. So if you're like in a small pond or something and you don't want anything floating on it, you can take that off. But right now, if we actually go into our Oceanology 5 content and we go into our design, and we go into ocean, and then we're going to go into blueprints, prefabs, we'll go ahead and grab the battleship prefab, and we'll grab the box collision one and just drag it out here into the world and rotate that. And now you should see that this guy is floating. There we go. So we don't have any wind, so there's no wind effects, but we got the floating at least. So let's go ahead and get rid of this one. And we'll go ahead and save. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually start adding in some of the items for making these mountains look better, taking care of cliff areas, stuff like that. So the first ones we're going to use, I'm going to use a couple of pre-ones that I already have in Brushify. And since we have the RVT set up, once we open these, we'll go to the meshes, cliffs, and we're going to do the cliff number 3, I believe. That's the one. You know, let's not do that. Let's start the cliff number 3 first so I can show you some of the functionality with it. So we have this huge rock here, and this is a Brushify rock. So it has a material that has macro material on it. So the closer you get to it, it'll also get some more detail, and the further away, it'll be a little bit less detailed texture, so it won't be so expensive if you have lots of them on the screen. And another one that we have on this is if we click on it and go back to all, let's go ahead to our material. We have the RVT right here. So if we click our RVT on, we now have RVT blending. And if we go back, you'll see how the RVT landscape material blends into this rock. So it doesn't, you know, it works here, but if you really want to see it just to show what it does, we'll just flip it upside down because I know there's a nice flat spot, and then we can put it here like this and go ahead and walk around on it and see how the RVT works with the blending. That is awesome. So this takes you over the top for sure. That is very, very cool. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this one. This was just to show how the RVT setup is on there. Actually, let me show you one more thing really quickly. So I'll show you a setting that I like to use for a lot of these items. I prefer, so right now it has kind of a hard fall off. So you can go back into your RVT. We can bring it down here. Let's put it right here. So we have our RVT amount here. So you have your fall off right here. If you were to bring this way down, you'll see you'll get a nice hard line. And then this will be your blend fall off. This first one, the blend amount. So what I like to do is I like to keep this down at a very low number, 2, 3, 4, something like that. And then this is your fade. And then I like to fade it in to where I want it to be. About like so. Just to get that real nice faded look. And that's pretty much the setting I use exclusively. So let me go ahead and get rid of this particular rock. We'll go ahead and save it real quick. And then we have a few other ones we want to mess with real quick that are very important. So if you get the cliffs pack, you're going to get a whole bunch of cliffs that you can use for tidying up spots like this. And for using around mountain edges and stuff. Because right now these mountains are still kind of flat. And we could tessellate them and stuff like that now. I generally don't use that. I usually build up all my mountains with meshes. Using nanite and just stream them out when I don't need them anymore. But we can go ahead and play with some of these. So if we bring out this one, gives us a nice rock texture that we can mess with. And we have RVTs on this as well. So if we bring this out here like this, and I believe I already have the RVTs on it. Yes, I do. So you can see it's blending in a bit. And then if we grab this one and rotate that like this, we can add a nice large cliff area right into this green pasture area. Just some, you know, random rocks jutting out. Let's go ahead and scale that up a little bigger actually. And bring it down a little bit more. So we just got some random rocks kind of jutting out here on this this little cliff here, which we can definitely go and hop up on and do whatever we want. So we do have a hole right there. I do want to take care of. So we can just grab this one and pull it out a little bit more. Drop it out like that, just to add in some deviation for all of those. Now we do have we don't really have any great ones that we're going to use for the mountains, so you can actually buy some on many places. So CG Trader has a bunch, and you can get them on the marketplace. You can get them on Turbo Squid. But what we're going to do is we're going to go and create one real quick, so we can see, so you can see exactly how easy it is just to make that kind of an asset. So if you give me one moment, I'm going to hop into Blender, and we'll head on from there. All right, so here we are in Blender. And this is an incredible tool. If you're doing games, learn how to use Blender at least a little bit, because you never know whenever you buy an asset and you need to change something. I mean, you don't even have to learn how to model really. You just need to be able to learn how to change items, stuff like that. I've been using Blender for like 15, 16 years now. So I have a pretty good grasp of modeling my own stuff, but I find 90% of the stuff I do is just changing a model that I bought, or that I need something a little bit extra that wasn't there, and I just drop it in. So for right now, for this one, we're actually going to create something completely new. And we're going to use a plugin also from Brushify. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up here to add, and we're going to add in a cube. And we're going to scale this cube up quite large. And now what we can do is go to the shift. This is Control A. We're going to make the transforms. We're going to lock all the transforms so that our transforms go into 0, 0, 0 again, and our scale goes back to 1. So if I grab this and I scale it up, you'll see that our transform here, you see our scale changes. And we don't want that. We want to control, and we want to make sure that that changes so that this is now the set scale. So the set scale is 1. And that's how big it will be. And now we can go ahead and grab our Rockify here. We can go to something like volcanic, and then we can generate rock. And very easily you can see we have a nice rock formation. All this is a bunch of geometry stacked on top of each other, so each one of these is its own mesh, and they're just kind of all piled together. But for right now, we can change this. So if we go into our view mode there, and we grab our box, actually I think we can do it from, no we can't, we have to be in this mode here. So if we grab our box, we can actually move it and change the shape that we're getting with all these stacked meshes. And the one that we're going to get or go for, we're gonna go ahead and bring it back out here. We're just gonna shrink it down a little bit, and maybe we'll bring the bottom a little bit like this, and maybe we'll extrude this top up a little bit. And grab this edge loop and make it just a little bit less like that. So if we go back to here, you can see what kind of shape we're getting. So one thing I do want to do is I want to kind of taper off this top so we can, whoops, that'll be on the Y. We'll taper this a bit. We'll bring it up a little bit higher so that we can get a nice tapered rock. And we can grab these ones here, scale them out on the Y to kind of open them up a little bit more. This will just give us a little bit more deviation on our rock whenever we get done with it. And we'll go ahead and we'll put this one on the X to make it a little smaller there. So perfect, that looks just fine to me. And now we have a rock here. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go into the remesh, and this will make this all one mesh. And it will take a moment to, because this is quite a few polygons to get set up. We'll go back here. And now, since we have this one set up, whoops, I am in edit mode. There we go. You have to be in object mode for it to solidify these. So now that we have all these set up, you'll see that now it makes it into one solid mesh. And then we can change. So if I go up here and I go to say 1, we can change the density level of how many polys we're going to get for this rock. So this would actually work very well for like a low poly type game or something. I do want a little bit more than that. And we can also use our decimate tool to add a little bit back or take a little away. So we're going to go to 0.5 to get a little more geometry like that. And we'll bring this one back to 0.3 where it was, which is going to give us a little more there. So you get a little bit more of those jagged edges. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to shade it. Yeah, we can't shade it yet. That's right. So we're going to do a little bit of sculpting, just get rid of some of these hard edges. So if you see there's a couple pinched spots, we're going to see a little better when we shade it. We'll get rid of those real quick. So we're going to go ahead and apply this. So we know this is the rock we want. We're going to apply it. And then we're going to start from the top of the stack and work down. And we're going to apply all these so that we have our mesh here now. And now we can actually shade it smooth. Just like that. And we have a few spots that we want to take care of where the mesh is a little bit pinched. So we can just go up into here, go to our sculpt mode. We can grab our smooth tool and let's bring our strength way down, bring our radius up a bit. And we're just going to start smoothing everything a little bit just to get rid of some of those sharper edges. There we go. Just so we UV it, we don't have that much of a problem. That works just fine. All right, I'm going to call that done. Let's go back to object mode. Now we're going to UV unwrap it. So if we select everything with A, we hit U, we can go to smart UV. We're going to put this up to about 85 or so on the angle limit and then hit OK. It's going to take a moment. Go into our UVs. Let's select everything again and you can see how your UV wrap was. We can go ahead and just see a little bit, see if we have anything overlapping, because overlap is a problem on something like this. And it actually looks pretty good. There might be a little bit, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about that too much. Now we can go ahead and scale back here. We'll go ahead and go to export. We're going to export this in FBX. And this will be in my Y, Blender models. This is cliffs. And this will be my cliff That's too many eyes. Cliff underscore 02, or let's do this cliff underscore test. That's fine. And our settings here, we're going to go selected object, and we're going to go into our geometry. We're going to put faces for our smoothing, tangent space, and triangulate faces, because there are some quads in here we want to triangulate, because I'm going to jump it into Substance Painter here and paint it real quick. So we'll go ahead and export that out to that folder we just did. We're not going to save it because I have a whole bunch of these already. And now we can head into Substance Painter. All right, now we're back in Substance Painter. We're going to go ahead and go to New, and we're going to select the items we want. I'm just going to do it as a 2048. We're going to select, we're going to do our cliff test. This is the one we just built. Hit OK. And make sure that comes in well. Let's go ahead and take a look around it, make sure everything looks good, and it does. Very nice. Let's go ahead and hit F1 so we can see our... We're not really going to be doing much with the UVs, so we'll just go back to F2 so we can just see the item. And we can go up to the top and we can go to stone, which I have a bunch of them here. And this is my favorite one for stone. Go ahead and drop that on. We're going to try planar on this since we don't have a really smooth cut for the UVs, just to fix any issues that we might have as far as seams that we can't really take care of since they're cut weird. And this is just fine. We'll actually scale that up a bit. We'll put it up on about a 3, something like that. And let's get rid of this bottom layer. We're just going to keep this top one on here, and we're going to go down to the gold because we don't want the gold vein in it. And we're just going to remove the gold amount. Just like that. Awesome. That's already looking good. So now we're going to go and we're going to do all of our processes here for getting the curvature and everything, and we'll bake this. And this will bake out all the curvature, add in the ambient occlusion and the curve map, and a bunch of other cool stuff. Let's go ahead back to return to painting. And now we can add our second one in. So I'm going to add in the alabaster down here on the bottom. I'm going to put this underneath. We will take this one and bring our vein density down a bit. This one we're not going to use any height. We're not going to use any metal. We'll leave the roughness as fine. And what we are going to do with this is we're going to mask this one out. We're going to go to our top layer here. We're going to add a black mask is fine. Doesn't really matter. We'll go to our add generator, and then we're going to add a metal edge wear. And we have it reversed. So if you added white, it wouldn't have done that. So we're going to invert our selection here like so. And now what we can do is we can add in some edge wear. Let's go ahead and bring our grunge way down so we can see where the edges are happening, like that. Very, very, very cool. And we're actually going to bring the contrast up a little bit. Now we can start bringing our grunge back in. We're going to put a little higher scale, and you'll see the grunge will just kind of spread it out a little. Just about like that. And let's go ahead and drop this down a bit. So we just want it kind of on the edges, not everywhere. About like that. That looks pretty good. And let's see what we have here. That looks just fine to me. Very cool. So the last thing I'm going to do, number one, I want to try and get this, the colors on this to be just a little bit closer to the colors on our hill. So I'm actually going to give it back into the brownish side again, but in the brown gray. About like so. That should do right, probably about there. And then we're going to add a fill layer. This will be our final step. And in this fill layer, we are going to take out the height. We're going to take out the metal and the normal. And on the roughness, we're going to bring the roughness all the way down to 0 so that it doesn't have any roughness. Like so. And I did notice one thing I didn't like was those. Yeah, that'll be fine though. Oh, because what I did is on the, so if we grab this one, we're actually on the rock texture itself. I want to put the normals on to give it a little bit of extra normal, but the height is way too high. So if we go down to you'll see the technical parameters, just pop the technical parameters, and then we can bring the height range down, and you can get it all the way so it's only normals. We just want to kick it up just a little bit. About right there. That's much, much better. All right. Click this one back on. So what we're going to do with this one is we are going to make this a darker brownish color. Something about there. That should do it. And then we're going to add a white mask. We're going to add a generator. And then we're going to add a dirt mask. Just like so. And then that'll just add a little dirt in these crevices. And what we're going to do is bring this up a bit, and we're going to bring this down. We just want it to kind of highlight the darker areas. We don't want it to be super exaggerated. Let's see what I can do here. Let's do that. Oops. And let's bring this back up a little bit. And now we can add just a little bit more grunge in. So the grunge, you can get it so it puts dirt everywhere if you want. I don't want too much. Just a little bit. Let's give this a little bit higher, actually. About like that. And then we'll add our grunge in. Just to kind of spread it a little bit. About like that, just to give us a little dirt. All right, that works perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and go to File. And we're going to export this texture, and I have a spot for it here. We're going to go to Y, Substance Game Materials, and this is my cliffs. This is a new one. This will be a new folder. This is cliff test _ test. And we'll open that up, select folder. We're going to save this as a 2048 Unreal Engine 4. It's not usually the one I use, but this is the one that most people will, so that's the one I'll use right now. And we'll go ahead and export that. And now we have this texture set up. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We're not going to save because I already have a bunch of these. Let's go ahead and discard. So now we're back in here, and we got to bring all these items in. So I went ahead and I created a new, let me get all these closed. So I went ahead and created a new mesh folder, and we have cliffs here, and we have our meshes. What did I do? That's not the right one. That's Brushify. Content. I'm so sorry. In the content folder, I created our mesh folder, and we have cliff 01. I'm going to go ahead and add in a new folder, and we'll call this cliff _ test. All right, we'll open that up, and we can go ahead and import our cliff mesh. So we have cliff test here. Go ahead and on the settings here, what we are going to do is we're going to force the front axis, and we are going to make sure that do not create materials is unchecked. Then we go ahead and import all. Very cool. Now we have our cliff. We can bring it out here, and you can actually see the scale that we built this to. Quite large. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a new folder, and this one is going to be called textures. And let's go ahead and import the textures that we just made. So let's go into the Y, and this will be in Substance Materials. This is in Cliffs, Cliff Test. We'll bring those in. And we actually don't need all of them because we're just going to use 2. And this is actually one of the coolest parts is in Brushify, they actually give you a material to use that's ready to go right out of the box. And the way that we're going to do that is if we go into Brushify and we go into materials, you have a bunch of materials here on the end. And you have this one, it's called M_near mesh master. So this is a material that you can create an instance off of and add it to any item that you want in the game, and it'll have all the features that we're going to use in Brushify. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and right click on it, and we're going to go to create material instance, and we're going to call this _ cliff test _test. And let's go all the way to the beginning and not forget to put an MI designation instead of M. Go ahead and hit enter on that, and then we're going to drag this one up to our content, and we're going to drop it into the content that we were working on for our cliffs. So we had Materials, our mesh, cliff test is right here. We're going to drop it right there. And now if we go into our cliff test folder, we have our cliff here. We can just drop it right. Let's actually do it in the mesh itself. Let's zoom out a bit. Let's go ahead and drop it directly in here. And you'll see it's just the base material that comes with Brushify. But since we made an instance of it, we can go ahead and create it how we want. Another thing I am going to set up though is I do want to remove all the collisions since this has just a big collision capsule over it. And we're going to go into show, we'll go to simple collision. And I already have hull convex, you can get that here if you go to collision and then go to add convex collision. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring our hull count down pretty far. We're going to bring our verts maxed out and we're going to put up the hull precision. And let's see what we get. It should make one large, but it should have enough vertices to get us a nice, actually that looks pretty good. Very nice. So now we have our collision set up. That should work just fine. Let's go ahead and drop back out. And here's our big old rock. And now if we open the MI near mesh that we made for cliff test, we have our sets here to add in any particular textures that we want. So we're going to turn our albedo and we're going to turn on our normal. And if we go back, if we go back into our texture folder, we have our base here, which we can add to there. And then we can go back out here and grab our normals and add that one into here. And now we have our rock pretty much done. So there's one other thing I want to do. So right now we have a fairly good size rock with a texture on it that's only 2048 by 2048. So if we get in here like this, you'll notice we lose a lot of definition. And there's one beautiful thing that we have in the Brushify materials where we can actually just turn on the detail mapping. And we can customize the detail mapping if we would like. I'm not going to do that right now. Because this one is a specific, yeah, I'm not gonna do that right now. So this one is a specific texture that you can get that's kind of scaled down to fit in a certain area. But you'll notice now if we go into it, it starts getting more texture as we go in, and it just breaks up that this is a low, low quality texture when you get nice and in there. That's perfect. The only other thing that we really want to take care of right now is probably the roughness. So we can use the multiplier and bring that up a bit and just kind of get the roughness so that in some of the darker areas it'll be a little bit shinier, but for the most part that works. And another thing we already have added in here is we can just go down to the RVTs, turn them on, set our blend amount to something about like so. And we're pretty much done. I mean, we can go ahead and grab this rock and pull it down into the ground. And we already have blending on it. So it's already set up for blending. Just like that. That's awesome. So the reason that we built this though is for doing, so I have several of these. I'm only going to show the one right now. You can build as many as you like. But the reason that I build these a lot is I actually use these textures or these meshes to build up my mountainous areas. So let's go ahead and get this in here. Let's get it set where we want it to be to this one. And we can move this around however we want it. And we can fill in these areas with plenty of these. And we can spin them around, change how they rotate, bring it back in like so. And let's go ahead and get this one over here. And very quickly, you can create a whole lot of deviation for your mountains. And I wouldn't cover everything, but just certain areas that are kind of flat, just to give it more deviation, something to look at. You can also scale these up and scale them down to get more deviation as well. You can change your scale make them flatter, and so on like that also. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to maximize the use of these. Yeah, let's do it like that. We'll add you in, and then we'll rotate you like this and bring you out here all the way around like that. And so we have these lines going up and down. We just kind of want to follow the shape of our mountain like this. Something like that. And very quickly, as you can see, we can really build up a lot of rock area for filling up our mountains and making it look a little more broken up and a little bit, you can make it more stylized. You can change areas just to have more of the style and look that you want. And also you get rid of this flatness without using tessellation. So there is that one as well. Perfect. So I do have one other thing I added. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did add the ocean floor. I'll mention it again real quickly just because I can't remember, and I'll cut this out if I did. But if we go to our ocean and we just drop that out real quick, you'll see we have a big open plane. And we can also bring back our distance meshes. So we have a big plane, and this is just a standard plane that I added a texture to so that you can't, so if we go back to it and we get rid of it, you can just swim down once you pass this plane forever until you die by Z-death or until you get bored. You can also put in your plane, and now you can only swim to that point, and then you have to continue on. And by the time you get to the end of this, it's quite large. Yeah, you'll be done swimming by then. You can also put a border out there as well, so that's, you know, a hard limit. That's as far as you can go. So let's go ahead and bring the ocean back on. Where's our ocean? Like so. There we go. So we have our cliffs here. We can go ahead and add these in a new folder. And these will be create new folder. This will be cliffs. And I did it again. I'm always doing that. F2, cliffs. There we go. So the cliff folder will be put in also the environmental folder, which you'll probably see next time. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start adding in all these rocks and get all this mountain done and get some of this ground done with a little bit more sculpting and stuff. I'm not going to put in the POI. I'm going to leave that open so that we can do that together. But I'll do a little time lapse so you can see what I'm doing with the rocks and the mountains and everything like that. Just so we can get this taken care of, because that's actually going to take me a little while to get all those in, and then we'll start on the POI. But for right now, I think this is going to get us done for this part. We added in quite a few textures. We got the grass set up the way that we want. The water's working well. We got buoyancy on the character. We got the rocks. We actually made our own rock and added it into our project here. We got the rocks that came with it. We can just throw on as well. And yeah, I think that's going to work for now. And a little bit later on today, I'm going to have the giveaway video coming out as well. So definitely look out for that one, because we're going to go ahead and start that setup and get that ready so two of you can walk away with a couple versions of, or a couple copies of Oceanology. So for right now, I'm going to start filling this out and get that time lapse done. And I'm going to leave you on this, and I'll see you guys on the next one.